Hey everybody, happy Friday. If you have had a week like me, you don't even really know it's Friday. You don't even feel it. I am standing outside of a Target with no power. We just got back to Florida, so a lot of my fellow Floridians will feel my pain. My flight was delayed 5 hours, so I have zero makeup. So I am totally committed to doing this for everybody. I hope you know. Our podcast launched today, which is super exciting. So please check that out, download it on iTunes. I started a Twitter page, which is a pretty big deal. I'm moving up in the world on the whole social media thing. So Amy_Novakovic for Twitter. Hey RT, I hope you're feeling cooler than me right now standing outside. It's very hot here. So tonight, let's cover education planning options. This was at special request. So if you ever do have ideas or things that you want me to talk about, go ahead and either email me or text me or call our office or post it on our Facebook page or whatever you want to do. And we're happy to go ahead and do that. Next week I think we're going to start a 3-part series on annuities, just checking out annuities, all the different types and the benefits and also the negatives. And ways that you can find out what you have. Anyway, so I know it is nice to be back. So education planning. So you have actually several options. Every state has their own programs, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're not so great. So Florida prepaid. In Florida, I'll just cover this real quick because I know a lot of people that watch this are not in Florida. But actually, some other states have prepaid as well. Recently, they did a really huge hike on their prices to account for inflation, which was kind of the whole point of prepaying. You're supposedly prepaying at today's rates. So I would do some calculations on what you're actually paying, like as what does that account for at today. So it's time value of money calculator if you don't know how to do that, because that's basic finance courses. But if you don't know how to do that, you can go ahead and easily shoot me an email of what they quoted you, and I'm happy to get that to you so you can really see what you're paying in today's prices for that prepaid, because that can be really expensive. And essentially what that is you're just paying a bill to the state and prepaying college. That's really all it is. It's not an investment. It's not really anything super fancy. So check out your state programs and see if you actually get a tax break also for doing it. So a lot of questions to ask. Ask if you get a tax break. Ask how long you're billed. Ask if you can do it in payments or pay it up front. Sometimes they give you a discount if you pay it all up front. So just ask these questions when you're calling around for the state programs. And, also ask if they can what it covers. Because I know in Florida, it only covers what they consider tuition. So not books, not room and board, not things like that. So definitely check out what it covers. That's a huge question. And also see if it can coincide with other plans. So the second thing I'll talk about is a 529 plan. So ask if it can also go along with a 529 plan. A 529 plan is a plan set up with a company, so like an investment company. Usually some of the big ones are American Funds, BlackRock is another good one. And what you do is you contribute money into an account and invest it. And it grows over time. And then the benefit of a 529 is as long as the money comes out for college expenses of any kind. So I gotta set down this diaper bag. For college expenses of any kind, it comes out tax-free. So when I say college expenses of any kind, I mean you can use it for tuition, you can use it for room and board, books. You just have to keep your receipts and tax-free. So huge benefit. No limits like a Coverdell savings account or an IRA, things like that. So you don't have limits like that except for gift exclusions, but everybody has $1 million in their life to give. So I don't know if you're putting away $1 million for college or not, but that'd be a high limit to hit. So you've got that, and the good thing about that is when you're investing it, so you can be more aggressive for younger children. So if your child is under 5, I would highly recommend a growth fund, a pure growth fund. So even if it's in stocks, you don't want a value fund necessarily, more growth for younger children under the age of 5. And then anything between like 5 to that, like middle school, so like 11, 12, and I would go more moderate. So a lot of times they have models within the 529s, and you can pick those models. Just understand that those models don't know you as a person. They don't know your tax situation. They don't know your risk tolerance. They're just going off of the general public. So it's kind of cookie cutter. So if you're in a bind and you want to pick that right away, go ahead and pick one of those models within the 529. But if you want more personalized advice, I would recommend calling somebody, calling your advisor or calling us or whatever. We can help you allocate that appropriately for your child, because I just gave kind of large ranges. And some 529 plans get really fancy, and you can invest in certain sectors. You could invest in financials or invest in technology instead of just investing in some model, which again is fine. But it's kind of cookie cutter. They don't know you personally. And so anything over the age of 12 or 13, now you've got less than 5 years, right? Now you've got less than 5 years before the child turns 18, which is college age. But the 529 can be used all through grad school too. So it can be used up to age 35, I believe. So if you have one of the big questions that I always get is if you have a child that doesn't go to college, what if I do this 529 but then they don't go to college? The beneficiary can always be changed. So the way a 529 is set up is I am the owner and my child is the beneficiary. And if that child does not go to college, I can switch the beneficiary to another child of mine, or a niece, or a nephew, or a cousin, or whoever. I can switch the beneficiary to anyone, or a grandchild. So you have a lot of options. It doesn't have to always be for that one child. And so I think a 529 is appropriate for almost anybody trying to save for college. It works well also along with other programs. So another option I will talk about is an UTMA or an UGMA. These are all acronyms, tongue-tied, for a uniform to minors account or uniform gift to minors account. UTMA or UGMA, depends on your state, doesn't really matter. All it really means is it's a minor account and it's subject to kiddie tax laws, which means it's a benefit, which means it's basically an investment account in the name of the minor. So unlike the 529, you are the owner and the child is just the beneficiary, and you can switch the child. The UTMA is actually, you are just the custodian and the child is the owner of that account. I got some sketchy people walking up on me. I'm gonna just move my bag right on over here. So it's a little scary out here, let me tell you. Small town girl. And so in the minor account, you can invest however you want. So again, unlike the 529, let me back up. I was saying before I got distracted. Unlike the 529, an UTMA or a minor account is it is the child's account. Okay, you're just the custodian. Whereas the 529, you are the owner, they are the beneficiary. Big difference, because depending on the state you live in, the age of maturity is either 18 or 21. And if the child knows about those funds, in an UTMA, they can get those funds. So if in your state the age of maturity is 21, at 21, legally, let's say I set up the account for you, they call me and they say, Amy, I want my money, I have to give it to them legally. So sometimes the UTMA is the good and bad. The great part of the minor account or the UTMA is that you can spend it on whatever. It doesn't even have to be for college. It can be for their first house. It can be for their first car. And you get tax benefits. So the kiddie tax laws are, I believe it's the first, I'm not a CPA, but I believe it's the first 1,800 is not taxed in gains. And then after that, it's taxed at the child's tax rate. So obviously, if the child is not working, they have a very low tax rate. So that's very beneficial for the UTMA. The downside, of course, is that, again, once they turn age of maturity, 18 or 21, that they now own that account. They now own that money. And sometimes parents are perfectly okay with that, and other times they're like, look, I just don't want them to have this money. It was really for college. Well, then a 529 is probably more what you're looking for. 529 is really specific for college planning. The UTMA and the minor account is great because you get tax benefits, and it's great because you can invest in whatever you want. You could buy an individual stock if you wanted. You can buy whatever you want in an UTMA account. Whereas the 529 is typically mutual funds. So that's another big difference, is the investments. But there's no special tax treatment on the UTMA. Oh, Jim needs the car keys. There's no special tax treatment on the UTMA when the money comes out for college. So the special tax benefit on the UTMA is on capital gains every year when the money is invested. So I think the big difference that you need to understand between the two is an UTMA isn't necessarily just for college planning, but it is for a child, and it can be used for college planning. Whereas a 529 specifically is for college planning. So the investments is also the big difference, because in an UTMA, you can invest in whatever you want. That's kind of huge, because some people say that they want to invest in a specific stock for their child. You know, they really believe in a company. And in a 529, you can't do that. So the other way that I've come up with for some clients, they say, you know, I don't need a tax break. I don't want to put away a ton of money, but I need flexibility in case I need the money back. You know, I want to start putting away for education, but I want that flexibility in case I need the money. So in that case, you know, you can just open any savings account or any investment account and label it. You know, you can put nicknames on accounts, and for your own record keeping, label it education account. But that way, you know, so that way you're getting the best of both worlds. You're saving and you're putting away money every month, and you can automatically have the bank transfer or have your advisor transfer into an account for education planning. And again, invest it in whatever you want. But then the nice thing about that is you can also pull the money out if you get in a bind and you need the money. I know no one likes to do that. I know that. But just having that peace of mind, okay, I'll answer that in a second, RT. And having that peace of mind is really helpful for some people. You know, they've said, you know, always, what if I need the money? What if I need the money? And it's tough. You know, it's tough. On a 529, you're taxed when the money is pulled out, and on an UTMA, I mean, legally, you're not really supposed to take that money because that's the child's money. So, not ideal. So again, 4 ways we've talked about. We've talked about the state programs, the 529, the minor account, which is the UTMA or the UGMA, and then finally just opening a separate savings or an investment account and investing. And then RTS, how much can you expect it to grow? So you can invest in whatever you want, right? So it depends on what you invested in. I know that's kind of a open-ended answer, but so if you invest in growth stocks in a 529 in a growth fund, you should expect anywhere from 6 to 8% on average per year. Okay, so when the child is young, you really should be shooting for 6 to 8% per year. I would lower that for moderate, so younger kids, so like Carter, RT, you should expect anywhere from 4 to 6% per year. And then when they're older, you're really just trying to maintain, and you're trying to make sure that you are still contributing but still growing. You know, 3 to 5% for those last 5 years is good. You know, that's great in this interest rate environment. Now, if rates go up, that could change, but that's as of today in this interest rate environment. You know, 6 to 8%, you're doing pretty dang good investing in growth. And obviously, if you invest in your own stocks, that's why I say it's kind of a benefit to have a separate investment account, because stocks can obviously fluctuate 6 to 8% in a day. So you can do a lot more with individualized investment accounts. But I would highly suggest for children under 5 that you are in stock. You know, I wouldn't really concern yourself with bonds right now, because A, they've got interest rate risk. We're going to do that again on another Finance Friday. I'll cover why bonds are not the most safe thing to be in right now. If you've got a ton of bonds, you should probably get a hold of us or get a hold of your advisor and check that out. But so if your child is under the age of 5, I would go between cash and stocks or equities. You know, I mean, you want to be diversified, obviously, but longer term bonds are not your thing. You got to stick with short term bonds, because longer term bonds with interest rates will get hurt. You can do a little bit of REITs, real estate, you know, anything that's growth. for the longer term, children under 5. And in that middle stage, when you want to be more moderate, you can incorporate some bonds, but you still want to stick a lot with growth. Maybe just go more into value stocks instead of growth stocks, because you want to, own those good, consistent dividend paying companies. You don't need to shoot the moon. You're starting to get closer and closer to that college age. Life insurance for kids? For college planning? No. Is that what you're asking, RT? No. I mean, you can have life insurance for your kids, obviously, but it's not for college planning. It's not for education planning. I'm getting beeped at. This has been fun. I will be doing, again, a live next week on annuities, and we actually have a podcast coming up on education planning too, which will elaborate on all of this. But obviously, if you have individualized questions, reach out to us. But I think that's up anyways. So what else do I want to add? No, I think that's it. Check out our podcast. Follow me on Twitter, and I will be happy to keep this going. Sorry about the whole, all this. And yeah, Jim will join obviously next week. I know he said he would join this week, but he's kind of watching 2 little ones, so I could have a moment of peace. So thank you all for giving me my moment of peace. Okay, everybody, stay cool and stay safe. God bless, and we'll talk next week.